Hi everyone, I thought I'd record a short video going over the accounts that are used in this budget, just in case any of you have questions about how these accounts might be used. Okay, first off, I mentioned it in the last video and it was mentioned in the introduction of the assignment that these fields up here at the top should just be disregarded. So the part of the budget that you will be completing is starting here in line 13, the sales and marketing budget. One thing to keep in mind with this budget is that you are only creating it for the sales and marketing department. So anything that fits within this budget that has a line below only relates to the sales and marketing department. So for instance, any operational expenses. If you scroll down here, you can see we have all kinds of operating expenses. These are only the operating expenses that are relevant to doing sales and marketing activities. Okay, and we'll get into that in a little more detail further down. Okay, so this first line here within the sales and marketing department is a payroll expense, and it's a sales director role. So in large hotels, they might have a sales director and multiple salespeople who are still salaried, and then hourly salespeople who are just kind of support staff to the managers. So the director of sales wages or salary would be coded here, and you would break it up on like a per month basis. And all those sales people that are salaried that work for the director of sales, all of their salaries would be coded here. Hourly sales coordinators, they would all be coded here. Okay, next down here in line 19 we have payroll expenses, so like payroll tax expense. This includes like Social Security and unemployment tax and like Medicare. It's all getting coded in this line. Generally this comes up to about 6.2% of total salaries and wages. The next line is employee benefits. This includes things like matching for HSAs and health insurance itself and retirement benefits and disability and all these different types of benefits that the organization has to pay for. They get coded here. What does this amount to? Well, it can vary quite a bit by organizations. It might be anywhere from like 10% of wages all the way up to like 30% of wages. The next line is contract labor. The sales department doesn't really commonly use contract labor. If they have some big old sales campaign that they're pushing out, or maybe a huge trade show that they're hosting, some really major sales expense that requires labor that wouldn't normally be staffed by the hotel, that would get coded here. This is once again very infrequently used. It's quite likely that hotels would never use this labor category. Okay, it's much more common for contract labor to be used in hourly roles within like the housekeeping division, for instance, where they have like room attendants cleaning the rooms and they need to bring on additional staff to help during certain parts of the year. Okay, down here we have advertising billboards, so any type of print media that's going up on billboards, the creation of that content and the fees for posting that would all be coded here. I'm going to skip media here and go down to print. So if we're coming up with printed advertising campaigns, so this could be like in a magazine, for instance, or a travel brochure, those would get coded here. Other advertising expenses that don't fit within a print medium, like let's say a TV ad or like a radio ad, those would be going up here into this media section here. Once again, a lot of times we include both the creation of this content and the programming fees as well in order to make our content available, in order to run ads. Okay, if there are other means of advertising that don't neatly fit in these other categories, they would go here. Anytime you have like just an other category, we try to minimize whatever we're spending there. Generally, anything that falls in an other category would end up being a very small amount on the budget. Next we have brochures and photography. So this is a little confusing because we have collateral down here below, and some hotels would just combine brochures and collateral all into a single line. So collateral is just basically any kind of printed material that is around the hotel. So this could be like little signs and stuff that we have up to advertise different events or promote the hotel that are around throughout the hotel. For instance, it could be like stuff that's down in the lobby that's promoting different like events that we can host at the hotel or weddings, things like that. That would be collateral. Also, things that we take around to our clients that we print off ourselves that are about the hotel, that would be also collateral. Okay, what is broken out here though is specifically brochures. So if we have actual brochures about the hotel, or sometimes we call them rack cards because they sit in a brochure rack, right? A lot of times those rack cards, I guess, are being posted here. In other budgets that I've seen, all of that's just been thrown in under collateral. Photography is also combined here, and photography can actually be a pretty significant expense for a hotel, and this really just depends on whether or not the hotel has had a recent renovation. They might have significant photography expense, for instance, if the hotel underwent renovation in the last year. Then they need to update all their photos both online and in all their print collateral that they have, including those brochures. So it might be that this photography is a very small expense for the year, or it could be somewhat significant, particularly for a really large hotel if it's really recently undergone renovation. Okay, client gifts and promotional items. It's really common for salespeople when they're making sales calls and they're dropping in and visiting with clients to bring something with them. It's just kind of a gesture of goodwill. It kind of makes the visit a bit more engaging, and it's just kind of a nice way to get in the door. And these can be nice gifts, but oftentimes they're just really simple gifts. It might just be something as simple as bringing a dozen donuts by to give to the staff, and kind of give you the opportunity to talk to whoever's responsible for booking travel with that company. So these can once again be simple things, or they might be larger gifts that we're giving clients. Something that's really common is for hotels to give gifts around Christmas. So they might just give a business a gift, and maybe it's like a basket, right? Like a gift basket. And it could be valued anywhere from $25 up to $200, something like that. They're just bringing around and dropping off as a thank you for their business. Down here we have conferences, seminars, and training. So these are conferences, seminars, and training that the salesperson is attending in order to sharpen their skills and become a better salesperson, or become more qualified to work in their role. So this might happen when a new salesperson is hired. This could be the training that they're attending. It could be conferences that are being held by their brand that the salesperson or the director of sales attends on either an annual or like a biannual basis. They might be other conventions that or seminars that a salesperson attends just to sharpen their skills. So let's say they're not affiliated with any brand. Something they might do is attend like a hotel convention where they're bringing in professionals from the hotel industry that help teach people how to be better salespeople and just how to run hotels in general. A lot of the travel-related expenses with these conferences, seminars, and trainings are also coded here. So it could be like their lodging expenses, their flights, their transportation, the booking fees for the conferences and trainings themselves. All that type of expense would get coded here. It's really common. Next we have here dues and subscriptions. It's really common for hotel salespeople to be affiliated with different associations that help them. So for instance, here in Utah we have Visit Salt Lake, which is the Salt Lake Convention and Visitors Bureau, and other counties across the state have similar convention and visitors bureaus. And in order for a hotel to participate in that bureau, they need to pay a subscription fee. It might be that they participate with their Chamber of Commerce, or maybe they participate with the American Hotel and Lodging Association, and they have dues that they pay to that organization. All those types of dues and subscriptions would be paid here. Meals and entertainment. So what this refers to are the meals that we are paying for when we're taking clients out on a sales call. So it's really common, for instance, for a salesperson to take somebody out to lunch to discuss their account or set up a new contract with that client. That's really, really common. So when salespeople are taking people out for meals or entertainment, which could be like maybe a show or taking them out golfing, all that would be coded here. Miscellaneous sales expense, once again, this is kind of a catch-all for things that can't neatly fit in any of the other categories, and this really shouldn't be used. Operating supplies. Now, this is not like an operating department like the housekeeping department or the food and beverage department or even maintenance. And so these supplies are just the supplies that the sales department is using. So it might be like some printing supplies, but these should really be pretty limited in scope. Outside contract services. So if we hire an outside company to do some sales and marketing for us, that would be coded here. We already talked about photography, for instance, where we would hire like somebody from outside the hotel to do our photography. Things like that would fit into here. Obviously photography doesn't because it has its own line, but other contracted services could fit in here. Next we have telecommunications. In a lot of hotels this wouldn't be a separate line for this department. If it was a large enough hotel though, they would allocate some of the expenses specifically to each department, and that would fall in here. So maybe for the largest hotel this might be an expense, but for the other hotels it would be unlikely that they would use this line. Next is trade shows. So we already talked about conferences and seminars up above. Those were used to sharpen the skills of the salesperson. Trade shows, these are events that the salespeople are attending to actually create business for the hotel. So if they are attending a trade show in order to try to get bookings, maybe it's like a wedding show, for instance, and they're trying to increase the amount of wedding bookings that they're getting at the hotel, all the fees associated with them participating in that wedding show, and all of the expenses that go into putting together a booth, quite likely would be coded here. Okay, lodging and transportation. We already said that some lodging and transportation expenses fall under these conferences and seminars, but that's just when we are going to get training. Any other transportation that's like us engaging clients and trying to drum up more business for the hotel, that would get coded here. So this might be as simple as like any mileage reimbursement expense that a hotel salesperson would incur in just doing their normal sales duties around, even in their community, like just driving around in their community, meeting with clients, that would get coded here. If they are going outside of their community to try to meet with clients in other states or perhaps even other countries, if it was a large enough hotel, then that would get coded here as well. And all their travel related expenses, including their lodging, would be, and flights, all that would be coded here. Last here we have uniforms and dry cleaning expense. Hotels want their salespeople to look really sharp. One way of really helping that happen is to provide complimentary dry cleaning or some kind of a dry cleaning allowance to your staff to ensure that their apparel is in top-notch shape. And that's commonly like $60 to $80 per manager per month. Okay, I hope this has been helpful in filling out this budget. If you have any questions, feel free to email me. Have a fantastic day.